You are listening to the Heartland Author Podcast. I am Aaron Apollo Camp. For this episode, I had the opportunity to interview Calvin Cassady. Calvin is a former Seneca-Cayuga Native American Tribal Council member, a retired educator, and the author of the Christian nonfiction book, Bridging the Gap. I'm here with Calvin Cassady, who is the author of the Christian memoir, Bridging the Gap. Calvin, welcome to the Heartland Author Podcast.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Feel free to introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, my name is Calvin Cassady. Right now, I'm a retired school teacher. I've done church work. I've worked with, I was a director of Christian education for 11 years. Right now, I'm an author and promoting Christian ways.
Now, without spoiling too much of your book, what is Bridging the Gap about?
Okay, Bridging the Gap is a method of trying to bridge the world we live in today with the world of heaven and eternity.
Now, I understand that you were involved in an automobile accident back in like the early 1970s. Could you tell us more about that and how it affected your life, both physically and spiritually?
Oh, certainly. My favorite thing to talk about. When I was 19 years old, I was out with a couple of friends on a day trip, and we was in some curvy terrain. The driver lost control of the car, and it resulted in an explosive, fiery crash, and that basically set the tone for the book. It was a situation where basically I was unconscious and on the verge of bleeding to death because my whole head was split wide open. And a couple of interesting things. There was a couple of fellows that happened to be on the scene of the accident and basically kept me from burning up. And I like to refer to them as my guardian angels because we haven't been able to find them and we haven't been able to, track the whole incident. But that was the beginning of the unfolding of the journey. Somewhere between the accident and the hospital, I was treated to a trip to heaven, a glimpse of heaven, a chat with God, and then return with a mission to use that experience to spread the word, make Christianity available to everybody. It was a good story starter. Let's put it that way.
Now, how does Christian enlightenment reflect in the characters of your book?
Well, at the time I was of the accident, I was just about to graduate from college with a degree in elementary education, and my mission early on was to work with kids that had special needs, troubled kids that maybe wasn't troubled kids, but maybe were from troubled households, and and through through my work with them, I was able to see results. And somebody asked me the other day about leaving your comfort zone, and sometimes in those situations, I would start out with a situation with not a whole lot of information, but just knowing the knowledge that this child was in need. And we would just kind of come together and things would begin to click. And I, personally give most of that credit to Jesus because he was there write with me, and he was telling me what to say and pushing me through the doors. And then, of course, as people grow up, you begin to see that 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 opportunity, uh, had results, and that's very rewarding.
Now, is Bridging the Gap self-published or traditionally published?
Right now, it's self-published.
Okay. Now, do you plan on writing more books in the future?
Well, let's put it this way: I'm taking a lot of notes because that's how the first book came about, was from journal entries, and so I'm still writing. I just haven't gotten it all together again. Um, there's so many outlets too for writers these days besides uh, published books. So yes, the answer to that is yes. I'm still writing. As far as a new book, I don't know. I mean, it's the book market is a tough one, and even with a great story, yeah, I'm still seeking to break into that traditional publishing mode, just simply because I feel that my mission is important. And again, it's not so much about uh, you know being a New York Times bestseller as it is to spread a message that so many people need to hear.
Now, are you a current member or a former member of the Seneca-Cayuga Native American tribal
Oh, I'm
council?
I'm still a member of the tribe. I'm no longer a member of the council. That's an elected position.
Okay,
Uh,
what was your work as a member of the tribal council for the Seneca-Cayuga tribe like?
Basically, it was the board of directors who were responsible for just about everything, um, but basically taking care of the finances and trying to regulate the use of funds. And I hope my position personally was to take those funds and do what I could for the Native American population that I served.
Now, you were also an educator for many, many years. And what was your work as an educator like? And what was your favorite and least favorite aspects of your work as an educator?
Well, I educated. In my first contract, I was 20 years old, and I was working with kids that were not a whole lot older. I was not a whole lot older than they were, and most of their parents were, uh, you know, close to my age. But through the you know, through the scope of my education, I finished my last teaching assignment was at the university, a local university here, working with international students, and with each grade level, uh, you deal with different maturity levels and different needs levels, but there's always that need, and I like to think it's the divine guidance that I hook up with those kids that are in need. That's the way it was in the beginning, and even now as an adult and who's not a paid educator, I still uh, seek out those people that might need a little extra help, might need some comforting words. Um, because that was the whole way back whenever I had the experience in heaven. That was my assignment, basically, was to be a messenger, and I I continue to do that today. This is just an example of an opportunity right now.
And I have one last question. After your transition to and from heaven, now that's the experience you had after the car wreck. Was that your transition to and from heaven?
That's true.
Okay, what is your view of humanity after your transition?
Well, I tell you, the the going to heaven, except for the anticipation, um, was beautiful. I mean, the whole thing was beautiful. We talk about the peace that passeth understanding. That that's that is when you achieve that peace. Now, the coming back was a whole other story, and maybe that should be the sequel to the book. I don't know, but it was not pleasant at all. I mean, on the way to heaven, you found that you dropped off your sins were forgiven. You dropped off the devil and Satan. You broke that bond, and it was all fine and good. But when you come back, it's not that way. I mean, because everything you left behind, what you raced to get rid of, you're face to face with it again, and that's why the coming back. I mean, when you come back into a world that you left, and you realize that the world that you left is full of hate and sin and racism and uh, lying and cheating and carrying on. Now, that sounds terrible, but that's exactly what we're dealing with every day when we wake up in the morning and when we go to sleep at night. It's always there. So, the book means so much more to me now than it did when I wrote it, because uh, there's some assurance that you can deal with the humanity as it is today if if you allow God in, if you lean on Him, if you absolutely, I mean, we all have, and it's maybe daily, a crisis that we have no control over, and if we try to deal with that uh, as an individual, we just won't, and that's why there's so much uncertainty in the world, so much unsettledness. Every decision we make can be a decision for right or a decision for the devil and for Satan and for but it's our decision. It's our decision to make. And so going back to the book is to help to make us more solid in our beliefs, uh, and understand completely that God and Jesus are there to help us through these definitely troubled times.
Well, Calvin, you were a wonderful guest for this podcast. I'm grateful that you survived the car wreck and are here with us today, and I thank you for appearing on the Heartland Author Podcast.
Well, I've enjoyed every minute of it. If there's ever anything else I can do for you, just you've got my contact information. But it's been joy. It's been a joy.
Calvin was a wonderful guest to interview. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding y'all to write your imagination. Bye for now. You can learn more about me and my book writing projects at campaaronapollo.wixsite.com/authoraac. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at authoraac and on Instagram at aacscribe. Copyright 2023, Aaron Apollo Camp, all rights reserved. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse or retransmission of this podcast episode without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited, except under fair use guidelines. Royalty-free music and sound effects obtained from https://www.zapsplat.com.